Good morning, 7:19 a.m. on this Wednesday, and it's time for the newsroom. My guests in studio with me this morning, we have Clay Muganda, who's the features editor of The Standard on Sunday, in the middle, tweeting away. He's a standard digital editor, perhaps showing us how it works. David Ohito, nakwambia bado uko simuni?
Niko sawa.
And Patrick Gadar, of course, communications consultant. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. You're wondering where Jasper is. I think he should be in the United States, New York.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the ASP.
Looking for security solutions?
No, it's ICC issues.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but it's good to see you all. Of course, security, the biggest story that has been covered. Let's begin with the protest yesterday. And Gadar, I'll start with you because you were not too happy with the media for not covering those protests live. Surely, Gadara, every single day since Saturday, almost back to back, the papers, TV, radio, everything has been about what happened in Mandera and the entire security issue.
The problem I had wasn't necessarily just the live coverage aspect. I think that would be taking it a little bit out of context. I thought it was a very good opportunity, given that you're having citizens on the streets demonstrating against the issue. And the Houses of Parliament, both of them, are suspending their business to discuss security. It was a good opportunity, an excellent opportunity for the media to contextualize these debates, to explain what they are about. Remember what happens when we have the State of the Nation address, as we now refer to it. We bring in a bunch of analysts, spend time explaining what are the issues. What is expected of
But
this
that
issue.
has been done since the attacks happened. Live coverage in itself, you do not have time to contextualize, as you say.
Not really. What has happened is we've had, again, quite a lot of discussions on your evening shows, mostly on evening news shows. Lots of which are like 10, 15 minutes long discussion, and a lot of it, if you notice, at the very end, people are being cut off, What I really have wanted is for you to take the opportunity to start a discussion, a proper, lengthy, well-informed discussion. And here we have a situation where the entire country is speaking about security. Let's try and contextualize these debates and explain to guys what the issues actually are.
David, what do you say to that?
I think insecurity has visited virtually every facet of this country. Every corner has had its fair share, but there have been those areas which have been challenged. And when you see the masses coming to the streets, I think that's an expressive sign that enough it needs to be done, and that those who are charged with these responsibilities have either abdicated their duties or are not capable of handling the situation. The murder or the massacre in Mandera, I think, just capped the whole insecurity matter. If you look at the statistics, we are counting over 237 people who have died in the recent months. And these are innocent people who are just trying to find how to live and contribute to this economy. But if we are going to have people butchered and there's no word from number one, there's a big problem in this.
We'll get to that, but do you think, as Gadara says, perhaps the media should have been live yesterday to bring more focus and attention to these issues?
The media appears to be the only corner, safe corner you can run to when you're in trouble. But we must say also that as much as we try to do our best, you don't need to explain why there is insecurity in Capedo. You just need to look at one photograph and it tells you the whole story.
May I very quickly say something?
Yes.
You do need to explain. One of the things, one of the problems I had actually with the coverage of the attacks yesterday, almost none of the media stations mentioned the 6 demands that the protesters had put out. They just said they're protesting against insecurity, but they had specific demands, 6 of them, that they articulated, and nobody spoke about it. It's important that we bring in a specific into this issue. When you have people in Parliament, like Sakaja was saying, we need to overhaul the system. What are their proposals? Kiraitu spoke saying, let's set up a counterterrorism unit, a covert one that goes in after the Shabab? Is he saying we send more people into Somalia? Let's discuss the specifics of these issues, of what these people are talking about.
So yeah,
I think it's the leadership of the security dockets that have failed. When you hear a modern state starting to talk about Nyumba Kumi, it tells you the thinking is so, spartan, so, wretched, lack of ideas of new ways of dealing with security. I'm glad at least there was a 15 billion deal signed. We hope it goes on through well and all the money goes towards securing what has been, paid for. That is the modern way of looking at security. But if you have old guards, retirees talking about Nyumba Kumi, I don't think you're gonna get it right.
Clay, on the coverage?
I don't I don't know what to make of Gadara's complaint, and I don't know that call it a complaint per se, but I think live coverage would not have made much of a difference, because what is happening is that actually in the build-up to yesterday, this was a people-driven protest, and for the first time I was very much for it, because people were actually aware of what is going on. Some of the time we bring these analysts, they never say anything new, and if anything, these analysts were actually probably on the streets. You see, it got to a point that talking in the studio was not going to help. For people, all these things have been done, for people to take to the streets, actually they'd had enough. And I think live coverage of the event, and I think it was covered, even before the protest yesterday, over the weekend actually, when Boniface and Betty started mentioning this thing on Twitter, people actually took it over, and I think two or three TV stations mentioned about this protest. You see, so live coverage was not going to add much value to it, because people actually know what is going on. But for me, what I figured, or rather for me, the positive part of it was that people were saying one thing: this PR is enough. I mean, how long can we go with this PR?
Again, let's not reduce it, as I said at the beginning, to simply, I didn't simply want to have pictures of protesters on Harambee Avenue.
Which is where I disagree with you, Patrick, because in terms of analysis and the issues at hand, whether it's borders, whether it's KDF, whether it's what Al-Shabaab and how we got here, that has been extensively covered to date. Every day I've been on air since Monday. In terms of our bulletin, back to back, away from analysis of experts, we've had coverage and my colleagues putting these issues into context. So I don't know what more that live coverage you were talking about would have achieved.
Again, now, at the threat of sounding like a broken record, there is, I think, again, my feeling is that there has not been an extensive or proper debate within this country about what we should be doing about the insecurity. I really think that yesterday presented a proper opportunity to actually start unpacking some of the issues that people are saying. And it's true that people were expressing a lot of angst against the government. But as I said before, they had certain specifics that they were proposing. Let's sit down and debate these specifics. Let's sit down and talk. When we say let's get rid of Olelenko,
what are the six?
What are the six? Well, I think one was that the inquiry that was promised after Westgate be implemented.
Have we not talked about that issue here before?
Well, we have spoken about it here, but again, it's not about the episodic discussions we normally have. It's about putting this whole thing into one, unpacking these issues and explaining, what the problems are. Some of the other things that they asked for the firing of Olelenko, and it was specific just for Olelenko. The IG Kimayo, there is an issue which I hope we'll get to later, about the procedure for getting rid of him and why I don't think we should be tampering with it. I think the other one was on the IPOA report that mentioned the implementation of the NSA Act, National Police Service Act. IPOA has come out on TV saying that this thing has not been implemented. That we've still, in fact, a lot of people spoke about it yesterday, about having 2 police forces. Well, the law specifies that we should have a unified police service. That law has not been implemented. Yet we don't hear people banging on about it. The law exists. It is there. So these are some of the things that I would really have loved us to concentrate on. And the fact that there is people on the street, parliament suspending business to discuss security, and media playing music.
Somebody, I remember Wallace Kantai tweeting and telling you that we are not 24 hours. Like
yeah, and as I replied, most the PT2B, but we are 24-hour TV. And my question is whether that 24-hour TV is doing, is serving the public interest to the best it can. And I don't think it is.
But sometimes also, I'm very sure, Patrick, like if at all we had maybe those analysts in the studio, probably you're going to be the same people to start talking about like this talkathon.
Your voice is a bit low, Clay.
You're going to have the same thing about, like, if at all we had this analyst in the studio, it was going to be the same thing about the talkathon and probably the quality of the discussions and all that.
Well, Wallace raised that again.
I think sometimes what is happening is it's better to let people express themselves. Actually, I am very sorry and I'm very surprised too that I did not know about these demands. I am hearing of them from you. I am hearing of them from you.
Ohito, why don't we have the demands? Why didn't we?
I mean, I'm hearing because
they were tweeted out yesterday.
What I knew is that people were actually mad at all this. I followed all the timelines of all these people. I mean, I was on Twitter till very late and all that. I never saw anybody tweet
they were tweeted out. I saw them.
And I mean, if at all I saw them, actually, I could have been the first person probably to start blaming us.
Sophia, my concern is that the way government has communicated in times of crisis about security has been wanting. Westgate, Mpeketoni, Kapedo, Mandera, you never see consistency. You never know whether to believe Deputy President Olelenku, Kimayo, or whoever speaks. Because all these guys just show, perform below par. They are not grounded on facts. They are like, very far away from what other Kenyans are experiencing. So if there is one thing that this government must get right, is how to communicate to its citizens properly during those security issues.
So Senator Hassan Omar is saying, I concur with Gadara that the media needs to facilitate a deeper debate and analysis on insecurity. Ohito, the Standard, Online, have we as a media house facilitated that discussion? I want you to focus on that before we move on to another issue. What do you think?
We are open. I invite Hassan Omar, who was my junior in college. He can send me his best piece. It will be up in the next few moments.
No,
welcome aboard.
But one more thing is for Standard on Sunday, I don't think there is any paper, actually, weekend paper that covers security issues the way we do.
Yeah,
we were actually the first paper to report the NIS report for Mpeketoni, who was in charge and all that. Nobody reported it. We actually, on that particular day, this Saturday, we had our reporter in Mandera, I think within immediately, our managing editor came back from leave to make sure that we had everything right. When it comes to this, I think people just don't pick it up. But actually, when it comes to security issues and all these things, the Standard on Sunday has really done an extensive job of covering this thing. So now, you cannot force people to start a discussion. And I think also, just the fact that people went to the streets yesterday, that was good enough. Like, actually, people have realized that we cannot have it anymore.
So, Gadara, you'd have had that all afternoon. Actually, the protest started about 11, that we are in the streets with people protesting and also perhaps switching a little bit of what's happening in Parliament, or would you have had analysts and switching back and forth? If you were running, how would you have had it? Just to understand finally before
my thoughts would have been that you'd have had people in the studio previewing both the debates in Parliament and also explaining what are the issues that people out on the street demonstrating about. Looking at trying to paint a holistic picture, So yes, you have analysts on studio. You've got some guys showing you what's happening around, but I wouldn't spend too much time only showing that. But the most important thing, I think, for me is to preview, to presage the debates in Parliament, because that's where the laws are made. And how do these guys actually understand what the problems are? I'll give an example. One of the things that we had a lot of people saying was that firing Olelenku or firing IG Kimayo will not solve the security problem, so we shouldn't fire them. That was the implication. But actually that's not true. The question should be, are they part of the problem? Are they part of the solution? If they're not part of the solution, get rid of them. It doesn't matter that it won't solve the entire problem. If they're part of the problem, get rid of them. And these are the sort of things that need to be unpacked. Another thing that they kept saying is, oh, there's something called the National Security Committee. That don't just blame Olelenku, it's actually the president. Well, who's meant to hold the president to account? It's you very guys who are talking over
And
here.
I think that's what we were doing yesterday.
And here's my thing.
Yes, and we did it.
Let's finish. The media, I'm talking about the guys in Parliament. So let's preview, let's set a context for the debates that are gonna be had over there. So when people listen to them, they can unpack these issues.
And for your
Have we
information,
explained?
Parliament was even covered live by more than 3 TV channels, Gadara. What else?
Ohito, have we explained the process that it takes to get this poll out of office first, especially for IG Kimayo? Because we keep hearing different views. There are those that say, as much as we're hearing MPs and senators coming out strongly and saying they should all be gotten rid of, that it is in their powers to actually initiate those processes and have it done instead of making noise like every other ordinary Kenyan.
Yeah.
But have we also just been able to call out these leaders and say, on one hand, you're agreeing with us that things are out of control, but on the other, you can do something about it, you're not?
It's not the work of the media to start telling people how to remove Kimayo. I think media's core role,
I would dispute that.
media's core role, first of all, is to ensure that Kenyans are safe and that we hold officers to account.
How does the media ensure that Kenyans are safe? Making sure the right people are in charge of
Yes.
security so that we tell them this is not right for security, get them out this way? Same thing?
We have campaigned that, there are challenges that we are facing. There are people who are paid by taxpayers to take responsibility for the security of people in certain parts of this country, headed by Kimayo and the internal security docket. We have people who are earning taxes of these poor Kenyans who are being killed like flies. But we are saying these people are not, doing their job. We have done enough as media to try and expose as much as possible what these guys have done in office, how they have failed in office, how they have not communicated, how they have been sleeping, and not just Olelenku and Kimayo.
Yes, we have done that.
A new boss at the intelligence unit. Is he also sleeping in bed just
Actually, I
2 months
haven't
after
seen him.
appointment?
He's not been
We've
mentioned
not
much,
heard about
actually.
him. We are demanding answers from these people.
We are demanding
day
answers,
out.
but Ohito,
Yes.
in terms of removing them, for those calling for their removal, the
Removal.
processes and the leadership, and whether they're being honest in that they're also powerless and only the president or whoever else can come
if I may
out
jump in.
and do it.
If I may jump in, yesterday, Kadidi Kega was on Citizen, the MP, and he said that removing, that Parliament and the President have a problem removing Olelenku because they require 2/3 of
Olelenku?
They enjoy security.
And the President, sorry, Parliament and the President, removing IG Kimayo because of the National Police Service Commission. But actually, Parliament passed an amendment to National Police Service Act to remove the role of the NPSC in firing Kimayo. All actually if somebody needs to do is to petition Parliament. Parliament weighs where this petition makes sense, passes it on to the President. The President then appoints a tribunal.
So Parliament must be petitioned by somebody from outside.
All
It
the people
cannot
who are making
initiate
noise
the process
about
of its own volition.
IG Kimayo, from the churches to civil society to the people, the members of Parliament
To the
themselves,
mosques.
has anybody presented a petition to Parliament to say, let's get rid of IG Kimayo?
And somebody
here
in
are
that,
the reasons.
have you exactly,
Because
have
you
you
can
and
also
the other
present that
protesters we
petition.
saw done the same? Because this is part
That's
of
what I'm saying. Now here's my point, is that lots of people make lots of noise. If this were unpacked and explained, here is the process. So not just shouting.
I think
Kenyatta fire.
let me
He
ask.
actually can't. There's a very good reasons. Let me finish. There are very good reasons why Kenyatta should not be able to fire IG Kimayo.
Yeah, because then they
You
shouldn't
know,
feel like
there's
they're...
very good reasons.
He enjoys security of tenure
Yeah,
in office.
and there are good reasons for that, and we need to
Yeah,
also
he
explain.
does, but are there ways in which when
Yes.
surely things are not working, he's gotten out of office?
Yeah,
Do people know that?
Anybody in public office can be.
Yeah, so what is that process? That is what I'm asking. I know that the media has, in terms of informing people, by the way, this is how it works, so that people don't blindly go and say, you president, because most people imagine President Kenyatta can today wake up and fire him, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
Clay.
But he can fire.
But this petition, Gadara, must it be done by an institution or it?
No, it can be done by anybody.
Okay, fine, Gadara.
Gadara, why haven't
don't
you done it? Gadara.
Yes, why haven't you done it?
Let's say that I am at fault there for not, but I think all of us probably are. But my point is, again, is helping people understand this. Yesterday, again, from Kanyenike Gauti was saying, about making it easier, to get rid of, looking at the law to make it easier for the president to fire Kimayo. It's a really bad idea. There's a reason why he has security of tenure.
Okay.
And actually, when we are discussing the failures of Kimayo, or the alleged failures, let me say that because I haven't taken my petition. But when we're discussing that, one of the things that we should be asking is whether he has guarded the independence of his office. There's a reason we put that security of tenure there, protect him. There's a reason we changed the constitution and put it expressly there. I don't think in a lot of what he's done, he has displayed independence in regard with his approach to the executive. And very much it seems like he's been essentially dictated to.
Clay.
Yeah, for me, it's not much about like how to remove him and all that, but actually how to tell him that actually he is not doing, he's failing.
He's been told, Clay.
Yes, and probably how actually maybe he can pull up his socks, you see, and how Kenyans can be secure, because okay, fine, let's say we go through all this process, we remove him, and then we remain with the whole system in place. So I think also...
That's the argument I was saying. It's not an argument of let's remove Kimayo and not change the system.
No, I think the person we need to hold, the person we need to hold accountable here is the chief executive, and that is Mr. Kenyatta, because actually the buck stops with him.
Yes,
and it's him who can actually call these people and read them the riot act. You see, that you are letting me down. I mean, Kimayo was not elected.
I'm sure he's done that before.
Yeah, Kimayo was not elected.
So the problem now is that it seems not to be working.
It is him who was elected.
It seems not to be working.
It is him who was elected, and actually it is him who actually people should be probably, I mean, it's him who actually needs to take charge.
Yeah, I mean, on the policy front, I really believe that, I mean, that buck stops with him, He needs to be held accountable for what has actually gone on. And the fact that, as somebody said yesterday again in the parliamentary debate, that we don't have a national security policy. It doesn't exist. If you looked at the speech that the president gave on the day Kapedo happened, just a few hours before Kapedo happened, it is vague. It's extremely, I mean, it was really poor. And they're supposed to be setting out the priorities for his security thing. Okay. Really, really bad.
When you have public confidence dwindling day in, day out.
God, it's not even dwindling.
It's not
It's
dwindling.
not
I
there.
mean, let's wait for the latest results.
Fine. When you have your key security officers not enjoying not even 1 out of 10 confidence, why should you have them in office? Security works in a manner that people must have confidence in those officers. People must have confidence in the Inspector General. I one time met Kimayo and Olenku at a breakfast meeting for editors, and I told them to their face that if I was your boss, I would have canned you and fired you after that. And they didn't like my word, but this is what Kenyans are telling them, that if you are really holding those offices, and this is what is happening, I mean, if I were Lelenku, I'd walk out myself without being asked that you'll be fired. I mean, you are a shame. You cannot even convince a kindergarten child with your statement. What the heck are you doing in office?
Enter President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's been MIA throughout the last several days. And I think you'd agree the media has done a good job in terms of just showing that gap that hole. The buck does stop with him, but to be aware and this allegation, speculation that he was perhaps watching the Grand Prix, we know he was in Abu Dhabi for sure, but also that his accounts, that is on Facebook, on Twitter, which usually will be very active, updating everybody on what he's up to, were not
No,
active.
it's back. It was up. It said working last night. It said working last night when actually Mr. Kenyatta informed you and the whole world that he was in Abu Dhabi discussing terrorism-related matters. Yeah, it started working last night. And what happened is that the other socialite who had posted on her Instagram about being dope, leading a dope life and hanging out with chilling with the president and all that. She closed her Instagram account. Yeah, she closed her Instagram account. So I mean, I would not. Come on, you have to give it to Mr. Kenyatta. I mean, a little holiday here and there, it's not a bad thing, you know. I mean,
but the media has done well to even draw comparisons. In other democracies, what has happened in such a situation, if they're on holiday or whatever, they'll cut short their trips and head back, you know, to action. Yes, you've seen the DP here and there, but that even a statement from the president has not been heard. He's back now in the country. Came back last night.
he did.
Yeah, he came back.
Oh,
Yeah, he came back last night. That's
Yeah,
where
he's back.
the thing started out.
He didn't tweet.
You know, he was at the Grand Prix. There was
there were a number of heads
an
of
article
states. Yeah.
from one of the
Yeah,
online
with
of
his
Dubai
name, would not see him there.
that says that he had a meeting on the sidelines of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So he was there. You know, I think it was a massive failure of judgment for him not to have come back, not to have cut short his trip and returned. You know, if you look at the statement, I was looking at the president's website, and they put the statement that Ruto gave essentially as the president's statement, but delivered by, so on behalf of. So he could argue that he actually did give a statement.
Or the statement that Mr. Ruto gave that.
Although that statement itself had huge, lots of problems.
The one that they said that they killed
which we'll get to.
They killed,
But
they killed 100.
I would agree that
killed
the media
100.
did well to
Sorry, they didn't
highlight.
celebrate.
Oh, they did. Yeah, but
But
they killed.
here's the other thing. When he gets out, when he travels out of the country, and maybe we need to start thinking of having a press corps that actually travels with him, follows up with him. So we are not only reliant on his account of what he was up to and some pictures appearing on the web, that we've got.
Doesn't he
reporters.
always have?
Well, he's got the presidential press unit, but those are his guys, Our media guys should probably have people who are attached to State House. And
Presidential Strategic Communication Unit.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
but we should. I think the media should have its own core that travels with him. And I know we are borrowing a lot here from how it's done in the U.S., but it helped in knowing. So we don't just have one source for what he was saying. He can say he was meeting with guy. We have no idea. Maybe he was getting high somewhere. We have no clue.
No, one of the statements came, he was signing investment deals with the people in UAE who would want to, Abu Dhabi, who would want to put their money in Kenya. That's the best I saw that came.
Yeah, but you see, actually, the first thing that came out before the first thing that came out about Mr. Kenyatta's trip was actually a dispatch from UAE, or maybe the government of Abu Dhabi, which actually mentioned that on the sidelines of on the sidelines of Formula One,
The desert.
yes, which actually means on the sidelines that the main thing was a Formula One. You see, and there were quite a number of dignitaries, I think, that had been invited by the, I don't know,
I think they had like
Grand
3
Line
African
or that.
presidents there.
But
It was the place to be.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Here's the other question. Has anybody in the press tried to contact this lady who took a picture with the president?
The
Have a
selfie.
chat with her, what was up, what was going on, etc. I would be interested just to know. Did they just meet?
No, I want to agree with you. I want to agree with you
Interesting that
that
you'd
I want to
want to
agree
hear
with you that actually
Because usually you'd say that's a nice.
No, I'm just asking because my point is this: is he's gone. There is a crisis in the country. He's not come back. I think we'd be interested to know what exactly he's up to there.
Okay.
For me, I would like to agree with you on one thing, that actually we need to have like a media team or something like that, to start accompanying the president. I know it's a little bit expensive, but there've been some trips that Mr. Kenyatta has made ever since I mean from last year. We've never had a private and independent media accompany him. We should do that. I think what they do in the US is actually the media houses pay for that. It's not free. And even when the presidents go on those sensitive missions, like when they call it the secret mission to Iraq and all that secret trip, they actually tend to call media houses very late, you know, and they always have this mainstream media personnel. I think that one needs to be done. I think that one needs to be done so that we can actually be informing Kenyans from an independent point of view.
All right. Before we get
and then, just a minute, I like the statement by Mr. Ruto. I mean, like whether it was from the government or
which we're about to talk about.
Yeah, the one of
and a lot of what he said in that speech.
Yeah, the one
on
about
Sunday.
Where they killed 100 of the 15 attackers.
We'll talk about that. But there's Gado today on page 12 in The Nation in his satirical piece. There are these two kids walking, I think, to school. So one asks the other, did you hear 28 people were killed in Mandera, man? The other says, yeah, terrible, terrible. Where is Mandera anyway? Then the other one responds, I don't know really. And the other one says, it sounds like it is in Afghanistan or somewhere in the Middle East. And we've had this discussion before in terms of media and our coverage of some of these stories, that sometimes it feels like this is the other Kenya, and that perhaps some would also argue the president not coming back or not being seen to be really active in this is because, again, it feels like that issue there where, yeah, there's been very many other issues, so it's sort of like expected and not an urgent matter. Imagine if the same had happened in Nairobi. Do you think the same would be talking about the same story?
Well, the same did happen in Nairobi, and we saw it used very quickly by Ruto to run away from his trial in The Hague and come back. And he said he had to come and settle things. When it happens in Mandera, it's pretty much ignored. It was raised again yesterday in the Senate. Where they were arguing that, I think it was Wetangula who raised the point that when it happened in Lamu, as he said, the whole government went to Lamu. When it was here, Ruto came back. Nobody has gone to Mandera. None of the
head of the public service was in Mandera.
Yeah, head of public service was there.
It just looked so
but I mean, I guess they could argue he went with Karangi, I believe. So maybe that's their point. But the fact that no Lelenku, no IG Kimayu heading up there, raises a point, which will also bring us to the people who want to flee Mandera, and the fact that there is no security, or there's a perception that there is no security for non-Muslims within there.
Okay.
Finally, I'd want to also point out some of the atrocious things that Moses Kuria has been tweeting over there with regard to the Kenyan Somali population there, saying that we should only post Somalis there so they can kill their own. That's how he puts it.
It's ridiculous.
Very atrocious, very bad. And this is a guy who has a case in court already for incitement. So let's not forget that. And I think it's very important for this to be highlighted. It was highlighted again in Parliament yesterday. But I think we need to make a lot more noise about people like him.
I think my take would be fine. I do not want to get to the level of discussing Moses Kuria. It's not worth my time. Look at Mandera. Mandera, let's understand it politically first. Marginalized over 51 years, consistently by successive regimes, by Uhuru's father, by Moi, by Kibaki, and now perhaps being marginalized fresh by Jubilee administration. 2, Mandera is exclusively URP. Only elected leaders are from URP. And that is why Ruto cannot dare set foot there, because the people are very angry. We supported you to the hilt, we delivered, and now look at it, we are being butchered, nobody cares. And that fear of storm from the ground, first of all, repels Ruto from going to the ground. 3, there's been a lot of inconsistency. In Peketoni, we saw officers being sent home because they were in charge of commands. We have not seen the same about Kapedo. We are not seeing the same about Mandera. Is it because the police officers in those areas enjoy some patronage or political alliances that favor them? So this security docket must be seen to be consistent. You know, what you do in Peketoni must be spread across. What message are you sending if you fired the officers in Peketoni? You have not fired the ones in Peketoni.
Oh, they came back, by the way.
Look at it. So
fired
there's no even point of firing
yeah.
again. So there has been a lot of marginalization. Mandera is part of Kenya. They contribute to taxes to this country. That is a very potentially viable county which can propel this country to the next level. And I think the people there, the governor and the executives, they need security as much, they need government intervention, they need support from the rest of Kenyans to make that county.
Clay, let's talk about what the Deputy President had to say on Sunday in his speech. Several things, of course, he talked about. But one of them, in the press conference yesterday, the National Assembly Department Committee on Administration and Security attributing the runaway insecurity to the working relations in the various organs of security. He says that's at the heart of it, that they're not working together. There's no that coming together, reading from the same script. But the Deputy President in his speech on Sunday said that Kenya is now seeing the best of relations between these organs. You'd imagine that as the media then would be the people calling our leadership out, when on one hand they say this is the reason why we're having a problem with security, and the Deputy President on the other is saying there especially we are doing very well. It's other things now.
But I think it's been pointed out a number of times that actually these people are probably working at cross purposes, or actually are not working together, not necessarily at cross purposes, but they're not working together. It's been pointed out a number of times. And the funny thing is that right now, as I sit here, I can actually write the speech that maybe Mr. Kenyatta will read, because they do the same thing. It's the same thing. Security, terrorism is a global problem. We are doing this much. Do you know how many, for every attack that you see, do you know how many that we have stopped? So I think it was the normal stuff. He didn't say anything new. I don't even think that actually it's something which worth discussing, because we can actually pick the speech that they probably gave 3 or 4 months ago, and it will be the same thing that he talked about.
No stones. You've forgotten the stones.
I mean, yeah, it's the stones, it's the number of attacks that have been foiled, it's how terrorism is a global problem. And I think sometimes also we play this as a media also sometimes. At times when actually we fall in line with this, and we say like, oh, come on, stop blaming this, terrorism is a global problem. Come on, I don't understand when we started giving, why we always like comparing ourselves with the worst, you know. So I think what needs to be done is we need to keep on pointing out, poking holes into all these speeches. And I think unless they write a new speech, because we've poked all the holes in the speeches that we've given probably in the past 1 year.
I'm more concerned when the Deputy President says that we have pursued them into Somalia, where we have our soldiers. Why can't we police our border? I know it's
and
very
borders is the
long
biggest
border,
issue.
900 kilometers long.
Border for me, that stands as really one of the biggest issues.
There was another issue also. There was another issue here, like I think the photographs that were issued, that these people have been pursued and killed and all that. The soldiers in the photo had KDF helmets. I mean, when they in Somalia, the Kenyan soldiers there are under AMISOM. Where did they have KDF helmets? Nobody is questioning this.
It's KDF that pursued them.
But why would KDF actually go? That's not their territory. Immediately these people cross because
hold on. But the photographs, I'm assuming you're speaking the photographs in the Star, you know, which in the Star's own articles say they had a 2012 timestamp. They weren't taken last.
I think the camera was set back. Fast forward to the past.
2012.
Fast forward to
Second,
the past.
the bodies they showed us were in fatigues. You know, military fatigues, military uniform. Shabab are not particularly known for their insistence on battle dress, on military dress. To a very real extent, they go out in ordinary civilian clothing. So there's lots of problems that we have. Bonnie Kalale yesterday in the Senate said that these were pictures that were taken from an AMISOM album. Essentially, they just went grab pictures and issued, and these were issued by the KDF. Again, who's asking, who's following up this and asking, where did these pictures come from? Who issued them? Was there let me finish. Was there a deliberate attempt to mislead Kenyans, which I think happened? One final thing. The deputy president said two things. At first, and the president has said this before as well, that they have stopped other attacks. Well, other countries say, or at least give indicators of their successes. We have never had a single one, where they've told us we have stopped this attack. Which ones are they that they keep repeating?
No, come on, security matters are so sensitive, you cannot discuss them all the time.
Secondly, when he said, there was a report of a KDF attack on a town in Somalia in the aftermath of the Mandera attacks. This happened, I think it was something like 3 or 4 hours after. That's the first report I saw. But it was in a place called Elad, about 40 kilometers north of Kismayo. That's over 700 kilometers away from Mandera. Now, if they are suggesting that that's what KDF hit and that's where these guys were, it will be very hard for them to explain how
Jets.
Gentlemen, I want us to go on break on that note.
No. We must find out where the new intelligence boss is. And we want to know if he's sleeping on the job again.
True, that is a huge area.
He slept in Campedo.
No, what I found interesting, the deputy president said...
The problem, I think, is not intelligence. Everybody keeps saying this. The problem is not intelligence.
What is it?
In Westgate, they were told by NIS that this was going to happen. Mpeketoni, they were told by NIS this was going to happen. In Mandera, the governor himself says, we told them that these attacks. The problem is, how do we have the capacity to respond to intelligence? Which is why when we are talking about the chains of command within the police, and the IPOA itself also raised this issue, that the police has no capacity, structured as it is today, to respond.
But also there's been an issue that sometimes that intelligence is blanket. It's like there's going to be an attack. So if you're just told in Kenya there will be an attack, where do you begin?
If the intelligence is blanket,
what kind of intelligence you're talking about? And I'm not speaking for Kenya here. I'm just saying aside
let's take
the story that needs to
Now, lots of most intelligence is never that, at this particular point, at this particular day, it's always vague. It's always chatter, The second thing is, when you get, as happened in Mandera, a report that there is going to be an attack, there's one being planned, there are people who are coming.
Okay.
And what your reaction is to beef up people at the coast closing mosques, And then, as we had a report in the Nation, I think it was yesterday, that said that there were only 4 policemen left in the outskirts of Mandera. That's a problem. How are you reacting to the intelligence you have? Second, when they were asked, how come it took so long for police to respond once they knew that this bus had been attacked? And they said, well, actually, that area is an area where we know it's likely to have ambushes. So what are you doing allowing civilian buses to go unescorted into an area that there might be ambushes?
All right, Gadara, we'll take a break on that. I'll come back to hear your final thoughts, at least on this security issue. It's a big one. There are many different dimensions and angles to it. Before we move on as well and talk about some politics, a lot has been happening in Orange Democratic Movement. There's a number of assistants and deputies to each of those positions in the new leadership structure that was unveiled over the weekend as well. So that and more still ahead right here on KTN.